A regular town council meeting, February 27th, 2025. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Keel.
Present.
Councilmember Freund. Councilmember Greer.
Here.
Councilmember Schumacher.
Present.
Vice Mayor Searcher.
Here.
Mayor Polguta.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I'd like to welcome down for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, Pastor Cheetah Olson, One Church. Are they here? A lot of people out there, so I don't know if I see them or not. All right, well, if you would please, let's just stand and have a moment of silence. Thank you. You now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Item 3, by voice vote, can we get an approval of tonight's agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Moving on now to item 4, student of the month. Councilwoman?
I just love doing this because these kids are so great. The town of Prescott Valley, in collaboration with the Optimists Club of Yavapai County and Bradshaw Mountain High School, are honoring these two outstanding students, Sarah Bopp and Hugo Garcia. Today, we're going to recognize these students for their commitment to school and community engagement. Because of their hard work, they've been nominated by their school staff and instructors at Bradshaw Mountain High School. Congratulations. Now let's start with Sarah.
Do I face out or this way? Oh, okay.
Don't be afraid to get too close to that microphone.
Good. I'm scared. Hello, my name is Sarah Bopp, not Bop, as everyone says, and I'm a senior at Bradshaw High School. I've been a courtesy clerk at Fry's for a year and a half, and I moved from Idaho to Arizona in 2002. It was a big change, but I've maintained a 3.9 GPA while taking multiple college classes since my sophomore year. I've taken a class in healthcare and business, and this year I'm taking a culinary class at Yavapai. I enjoy hanging out with my friends and listening to music and doing crafts or being outside. Once I graduate, I plan to continue to challenge myself by studying biological engineering at NAU on the Lumberjack Scholarship. I am so thankful and honored to be presented with this award. Bradshaw, along with this whole town, has been crucial in molding me into the person that I am today and pushing me to try new things and meet new people. As I go out into the world, I plan to utilize all that I have learned to put my best foot forward and succeed in all that I do. I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if it weren't for the people in my life, including my friends, family, and the staff at Bradshaw. Thank you.
Now, Hugo.
Good evening, everyone. I am incredibly honored to stand before you today as Student of the Month. This recognition is not just about me. It's a reflection of the amazing support, mentorship, and opportunities I've received from my teachers, peers, and community. Throughout my time at Bradshaw Mountain High School, I've worked hard to challenge myself academically as a part of the AP Academy. I have taken rigorous courses in biology, US history, psychology, calculus, and many more, earning a place on the Dean's List and honors roll while ranking in the top 10% of my class. But beyond academics, my greatest passion has been leadership, service, and making a difference. I've had the privilege of serving as president of FBLA, the Future Business Leaders of America, president of Interact Club, secretary of the National Honor Society, and an assistant governor for Interact District 5495. These roles have allowed me to collaborate with incredible students, leaders, organize impactful service projects, and represent our school at state and national levels. Through FBLA competitions, I've sharpened my business and communication skills, earning second place at the State Leadership Conference for Client Services and third place at the FBLA Region 5 competition. One of my most meaningful accomplishments has been helping to launch the Schistosomiasis Awareness and Prevention Initiative. Schistosomiasis is a parasitic disease that affects millions worldwide, yet it often goes unnoticed. Through this initiative, I've worked with my peers to spread awareness, educate communities, and advocate for prevention efforts. Knowing that our work could help bring attention to global health issues has been one of the most fulfilling parts of my journey. Beyond academic and leaderships, I believe in the power of service. Whether it is volunteering with Trinity Lutheran Church Backpack School program, mentoring young students as a link leader, or serving as a junior counselor for the Rotary Youth Leadership Award Camp, I have learned that true leadership means using your time and talent to lift others up. As I prepare to graduate, I'm excited about the next chapter of my journey. I will be attending Northern Arizona University as an honors college student where I will pursue my bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in accounting. My goal is to build a career in business leadership, strategy, and organizational development where I can help companies and communities grow through initiative and service-driven leadership. I hope to use my education to create positive changes in both corporate world and communities around me. Whether it is through entrepreneurship, corporate leadership, or community outreach, my mission is to lead with integrity, inspiring others, and making a lasting impact. I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to my teachers, mentors, friends, and family who have pushed me to be better, dream bigger, and serve with purpose. This recognition is not just about what I've done, it's about what we've accomplished together as a school and community. As I look ahead, I hope to continue learning, leading, and making a difference. And I encourage each and one of you to find your passion, take initiative, and use your talents to create a better world. Thank you again for this incredible honor, and I look forward to seeing what we can all achieve together.
And now Richard Bradshaw, principal of Bradshaw Mountain High School.
Oh, always one of my favorite nights, right? Get to celebrate our kids. Thank you, Mayor Palguda, Town Council, for bringing us here every month. You know, I was thinking, I hate to see our kids, I mean, I love to see our kids obviously go to college, but I hate when they don't come back to our community. So I encourage you to always come back to Prescott Valley because it is a great place to live, and we need great kids like this who inspire to do great things and hopefully move back into our community and do great things for us. So I appreciate that, and thank you again.
And Michael Whiting of the Optimist Club.
Good evening. I think all of us are really excited to have our Students of the Month here every second or fourth Thursday of the month, and we do appreciate the council and we appreciate the principal for getting these kids ready to go to come and learn about what we like about the students at Bradshaw Mountain High School. But today it's about Sarah and Hugo. And Student of the Month is just one of the rewards, I think, as a result of your personal commitment. There's probably many that you've had since your journey through Bradshaw Mountain High School. And your hard work really, I think, pays off. We know that this is the beginning of further achievements and personal growth through new opportunities, whatever those may be, whether you pursue a career, take up a trade, or continue your education in college or vocational school. So we're looking forward to that. And as Rick had mentioned, we look forward to coming back too. You can look at it as a reunion if you don't come back to Prescott Valley. That we'll like to see you come back if there's a high school reunion and take part in that as well. We'd also like to recognize not only the staff and faculty at Bradshaw Mountain, but also the folks that have been behind the students and why they're here today, and that is the parents or relatives. So we'd like to just say a brief thank you of the relatives and family would stand up for just a second if you're here. Anybody here? No? Okay. Are they? We like to put everybody on the spot, so all right. So it is with sincere pleasure that we congratulate you on behalf of the town of Prescott Valley, the Bradshaw Mountain High School, and the Optimist Club of Yavapai County. And as just a memento of the occasion today, we've already given you your certificates, and I'll kind of read what that says so you know what it is, since you probably can't read it from there. But it says, the Optimist Club of Yavapai County, in partnership with the Bradshaw Mountain High School and Town of Prescott Valley, certify that Sarah Bopp and Hugo Garcia have been named February Students of the Month. So once again, we can't clap enough for you, but congratulations. And I am going to give you a little Optimist information. We have 10 things called the Creed, Optimist Creed, and if you look at that and review it and can follow any of those as part of one of the 10 creeds, then you'll be a better human being for sure. So we'll look forward to that. So we're going to ask you to come up here now, and we'll take a picture. Yeah. Thank you, Council.
Next up, call to the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters listed on the agenda or solely on matters within the jurisdiction of the town. Any persons wishing to address the council must register their name with the town clerk prior to the commencement of the meeting. The council's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Such remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the mayor. And also, I'd like to point out that we do have public hearing tonight on some items, so if you want to speak during that time for that item, please wait for the public hearing. And then also, I was reminded that we need to have speakers when you come up to the podium. Please state your name, your street. You don't have to give your address, just give your street name and the town you live in. So that's all we ask for. So thank you very much, clerk.
So the first 4 names that I'm going to call is for citizen Atilano Olivas, Patricia Betzel, Steve Caros, and Tom Steele. Atilano?
Mr. Olivas is kind of in the back, so Ms. Betchold, if you'd like to go. Come on up.
I don't know if this one works better. Patricia Betzel, Armitage, Chino Valley. At the last meeting, council removed the reporting and enforcement section of the proposed ethics policy for elected officials. You even removed the title ethics and are calling it a statement. Some of you appeared to be caught off guard when the major change was proposed. Oddly, a formal motion was never made, and further discussion on the gutted policy was not solicited. The next morning, Mayor Palguda went on his Facebook to blast and malign another council member who was not in support of removing enforcement from the policy. The mayor went on further to publicly degrade his colleague, falsely accusing him of the same behavior we've seen the mayor himself exhibit. Then Mayor made further attacks on the same councilman on issues directly related to council business and assignments on the Prescott Broadcasting KYCA radio news. This is not appropriate behavior for someone who is supposed to be a leader and setting a good example. Council should not accept this type of divisive and weaponized behavior, not toward a colleague and not toward citizens. Some of you have already fallen victim to this abuse during the last campaign. If you don't think it won't happen to you, think again. Did Vice Mayor Zurcher have a different plan to hold public officials accountable before he proposed removing the reporting section from the policy? Or was leaving public officials unaccountable the plan all along? Let's face it, folks. Here in PV, we are faced with a singularly unique situation, something that I believe none of us have encountered before moving here. An elected official that has absolutely no qualms about insulting constituents and others on social media, on the radio, and sometimes right here from the podium. I'm talking about name-calling, personal attacks, the kind of stuff that we left behind in the schoolyard, not a professional disagreement. And most of us come from somewhere where a code of ethics has been part of the local government's toolbox for quite some time. The council put in a lot of time fine-tuning the code of ethics prior to the vote. I've tried, but I still can't understand Vice Mayor Zurcher's passionate resistance to an enforceable code of ethics. It remains a mystery to me. Council now needs to act. I ask that council get back to work on this issue and develop an enforceable policy because this statement is not working. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Olivas, come on down. Mr. Karos, you're on deck.
You guys
Sure.
raise the volume on these? Welcome, Prescott citizens, city council.
Mr. Olivas, please state your name, street address, and town.
Name, Atilano Olivas, 4250 North Saratoga Drive, Prescott Valley. Subject matter today is little blue pipe. This Saturday morning, my neighbor woke me up. I had a water leak. I went back there and I checked my meter, and it wasn't leaking on my side, it was leaking in next to the main. I called her number up, Jacobs appeared, they did the repair. When they took it out, they cut this pipe out, and this is Schedule 40 PVC. This should have never been used for that. And now you have it all installed and everything. And we inherited this when we bought the property, and you guys come into government with us. You need to set out a program to start replacing these. You have water leaks all over the place. On this last month, I've caught 4 water leaks, I've called them in. It's not up to me to be doing this. You should have people in force to go out there and check these items and drive around. They're not doing their job. When you court compliance enforcement, you have a problem there, and I keep telling you that. Now we inherit this, and you're raising our water bill again. We can't keep up with this. We need your help in solving this problem, initiating a repair replacement for these lines going from the main to the homes. This will not hold up. If you put a 6-inch sand lift on top and the bottom, it'll hold up better. When we dug it up, there was nothing but rocks. It grounded this pipe to pieces. You've got a problem. You can't secure the headers and the pressure and keep up with new water purification systems. No matter how much money you ask for, you will start losing a lot of money because some of these are 20 years old. They're going to fail constantly. The best thing for you guys to do is initiate a repair program on this to start replacing these, not wait for water to be leaking out 2 or 3 days. With that, I'll leave you alone. And lots of love. Good to see you two guys up there.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you too.
Welcome, sir.
Evening, Steve Karos, Ridge Rider Trail, Pronghorn Ranch. I'd like to proffer my expert direct observation that there are significant issues with regards to the police services provided to us by the Prescott Valley Police Department. A certain member of this council has made uninformed public challenges over the past few years to my court-qualified expertise in police operations and training. Therefore, I need to reestablish this before continuing. The definition of a legal expert is a person with specialized knowledge, skills, education, and experience in a particular field who provides expert testimony in legal proceedings. They can also be called expert witnesses. I have established this in multiple superior courts of law in Los Angeles and Orange counties, California, Gila County, Arizona, as well as the 4th Federal District Court in Richmond, Virginia. I have 22 years of law enforcement experience, including assignments as a detective, field training officer, having trained 34 officers, a human resources background investigator, an interagency oral board member, and a tribal officer. I hold a degree in administration of justice and was a founding member of the National Association of Field Training Officers in 1992. I hold 43 related licenses and certificates, and I was awarded 25 departmental commendations. Now, returning to my point, I'm not going to publicly identify said issues at this time, as Chief Ticer has graciously allowed me to already review them with him over the course of 3 separate meetings. Rather, I would like to offer for now 2 starting point solutions based upon my expertise. First, our police officers are comparatively and significantly underpaid. This negatively impacts the number of quality recruits and can also lead to the revolving door of officers spending a short time here and then leaving for a better deal. Additionally, this also limits the number of quality experience transfers coming in from other departments. Ultimately, better officers then make better supervisors and so on. Second, we are a town of 52,000 people, yet we have a police station that closes nightly at 5 p.m. and on weekends and on holidays. That's absolutely unacceptable. Prescott Valley must address the needs of our town before considering the wants. I strongly encourage that we get serious, scrap the YMCA project, and aim a good portion of that $29 million towards these first 2 steps in reshaping our all-important police services. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk,
Tom Steele.
welcome, sir.
Tom Steele, I live on Sheridan Avenue, Sheridan Drive, actually. Sheridan Lane, absolutely. 22 years and I couldn't remember that. I've been here through 3 mayors, 3 town managers, and a whole lot of council people. And I became aware of water maybe a year after I came here, and it's been a continuing operation that I've been concerned about.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. I think you need to use either the handheld mic or commit to the stationary mic.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe you're getting picked up. Am I correct out there? Okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. Okay, and most recently, I've let most of you know that in 2000, we were the whole area, Prescott Active Management Area, has been using 11,000 more acre feet of water than Mother Nature was giving us. And I've been working on the numbers since, and it's at least 70% below what it was in the year 2000, and yet the town has doubled in size between 2000 and 2022. Now, you don't have to be a nuclear physicist to see we're running out of water. In my opinion, we've actually run out of water, and it'll be 10 or 15 years before we really suffer. Now I see today, without public comment, you guys are going to vote on using 8.56 acre feet of water to decorate the entrance to Jasper Parkway. Now, for public information, 1 acre foot of water is a football field a foot thick, 1 acre foot of water. That will support approximately 5 homes or 15 people for a year. And these people want to spend 8.56 acre feet of the water we don't have to decorate the entrance to Jasper Parkway, which is across from the entrance to Stone Ridge. Not desert landscaping, but enough water for about 50,000 people that we don't have. So I ask you, and I ask the council, to go vote against this because we don't have the water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk?
So we have Randy Bosberg, Rob Wood, Chris Russo, and Francis Barwood.
Welcome, sir.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, my name is Randy Bosberg. I live at 4800 North Tawagua Circle. I also want to follow up on what Mr. Steele had to say because I just read that the town has filed a notice with the Arizona Department of Water Resources to serve a notice allocated commitment for Prescott Valley to supply water, 8.56 acre feet of water, which Tom didn't say. That's 2,789,288 gallons of water for landscape on the Jasper Parkway. The town will not only supply the water, they will drill a well or wells and be constructed in a timely manner to serve on a continuous basis for 100 years. I question, why is the town willing to spend our taxpayers' money to drill wells at an unknown cost to us for use of this water, for drinking water, for irrigation? And I remember from back in the Lakeshore 650 days, the town was concerned that leaving that land to the county with wildcat wells would be a bad idea because the water used wouldn't be captured and returned to the water treatment plant. But now apparently it's okay, the town's willing to spend our money to drill a well for irrigation of drinking water. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Rob Wood. I live on Long Rifle Road, Prescott Valley. My concern tonight is not about ethics or water. It's about the safety action plan that we're going to talk about tonight. I understand why we need to talk about, or why we should accept it. It's just one in a step in a process to get grants so we can improve our safety around here. I don't think anybody here is against improving our road safety around here. My concern is that, and admittedly, I'm late to the conversation. I just found out about it a week ago. I didn't participate in any of the surveys. I didn't participate in the safety summit or focus groups. I shared it with two of my neighbors, and it was the first they had heard of it as well. Our only concern, our only thing we looked at in this whole safety action plan was the intersection right next to our homes, Long Mesa and Robert Road. And there are two glaring issues in the final report that are not listed in the final report. The first issue is on page 53 of the final report. It says that on that section, there's been one fatality and two serious injury accidents since 2014, between 2014 and 2023. What it doesn't say is that in 2023, that intersection, Long Mesa and Robert Road, was changed from a two-way stop to a four-way stop. And since that change, there hasn't been any major accidents there. And it was only at the cost of two stop signs, not a big roundabout. The other big thing that isn't mentioned in there at all is the big concern for my neighbors and I. There are two bars within 1,500 feet of that intersection. It is not an assumption to say that drunk drivers are going to be going through that intersection. We know they do because when the weather's nice, I sleep with my windows open, and at 2 a.m., I hear all the motorcycles and loud trucks leaving Tony's 2 and Barefoot Bob's going through that area. At least at a stop sign, they're going to stop. Even if the drunk driver blows through the stop sign, the other three drivers are potentially stopped, right? At a roundabout, it doesn't take a genius to see what's going to happen when a drunk driver hits a roundabout at 25 miles an hour in the dark. It's only a matter of time before one of them ends up in one of my neighbors' backyards. And it's going to be a lot more expensive, and I just think it's a bad idea. My concern is if these two glaring issues, and I'm not a traffic professional expert at all, but if I notice these two safety issues, what else did the consultants miss? Now, I understand I think that we should accept this plan and move forward with the process. However, before we spend any money, I think there needs to be a lot more boots on the ground and study of what actually needs to happen there, rather than just a 5,000-foot focus group of what happened. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, thank you. Yeah, my name is Chris Russo. I live off of Glassford Hill on Kilkenny. And I just want to encourage everybody, after we're done with this call to meeting, everybody sits down, the mayor's going to tell everybody that this is not over, to come, that you can call any one of them and have a sit down with anybody in their office. I took the mayor up on that last year, and we had a talk, and, we can shake each other's hand. He says, come back anytime. So I encourage people to take anybody up on that if they have a problem. It was tenuous at first, but once we cleared the air, everything was okay. I had a situation here with the police department where I had the impression that there was inaction when there should have been action with some people that I saw that broke the law. And I sat down with the liaison for the public for the police department. I didn't ask his name. I didn't ask him if I can reveal his name, so I'm not going to do that. I didn't ask him. But, you know, again, I had a conversation with the liaison, and you know, he called me when I told him that my concern. I filled out a little form, and he called me the next morning, and we met that day, and we spent an hour together talking about it. And he put my fears, or not my fears, my concerns to rest with actual facts. So last 2 weeks ago when we had this meeting, I was gonna come and I was gonna, you know, read the riot act to the council about how inactive the police department was, but I didn't. I did the next best thing. I went right to the source, and I had a conversation with the people that are involved in what my concern was. So that, you know, I would encourage anybody in the city, anybody that I'm in town, anybody that's listening, or anybody in this room. I know the acoustics is bad, but if you can hear me, I encourage you to step up and make an appointment to see somebody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk?
Frances Barwood.
Welcome, ma'am. That should
Good
be able to
evening,
adjust. There you
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I came here to talk about a code of ethics, but I think that you've already adopted it. And I was on the council in Phoenix from 92 to 98. And it was a very important thing because we had a lot of issues going on at the time, kept everybody calm and nice and polite. And so I appreciate you doing that. The one question that I have is, eventually, are you going to be into districts and assign a council person? And I told you I live on Valley View Drive. And assign a council person for each either community or area, and just curious. Think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Clerk?
No one else, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on, council communications. I'll start to my left. Councilwoman Keel.
I had the pleasure of recently attending the First Citizens Water Academy here in Prescott Valley, and I see some fellow graduates out there. I thought they did a wonderful job, and I enjoyed learning more about our water usage here in Prescott Valley. And thank you for making it entertaining as well. It was a pleasure.
Councilwoman.
I was asked by Bradshaw Mountain High School to help cast their upcoming play called You Can't Take It With You. It was great fun working with the kids. That's our future. So I encourage all of you to support them. And the play is going to be on April 3rd and 4th at 7 o'clock and April 5th at 2:30 at Bradshaw Mountain Junior High's auditorium.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Davidson, you're up. Manager's report.
The only thing is we're continuing to track legislation that's being proposed and working its way through the legislature. The HCR 2021, which I brought up last time, the food tax elimination, it is going through a number of iterations. There's a possibility of a new amendment, and we're tracking that. If that amendment goes through, it is to the positive to Prescott Valley and communities across Arizona. So we would definitely support that, and we'll keep the council and the community apprised of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 8, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Council will have a chance to review our packet. If there's any items to remove, please let me know now. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda by electronic vote.
I second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Councilmember Williams, thank you. That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 9, old business. Town Code Amendment, Vice Mayor selection. Consideration and possible action. Clerk.
Ordinance number 2025-949, An ordinance of the mayor and common council of the town of Prescott Valley, a municipal corporation of Arizona, amending section 2-2-20, vice mayor, and article 2-2, mayor, in chapter 2, mayor and council, to provide for the annual selection of vice mayor, providing that all other chapters, articles, and sections of the town code not herein amended shall remain in full force and effect, and providing that this ordinance to be effective 30 days after its passage and approval according to law.
Thank you, ma'am. Shall this ordinance pass?
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 10A, general engineering standards and Quad City standard details. Welcome, sir.
Get that set up. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is John Latier. I'm the town engineer, and I'm here to give you an update on the general engineering standards and Quad City standards update. This is a project that has been active now for about a year and a half, and it's a project that's been working with the city of Prescott and the town of Chino Valley. And before I get started, I'd like to identify a couple staff and give some thanks to the city of Prescott staff. We have Gwen Rowich with us and Randy Perham. They're here in the audience with us, and they were very helpful in getting this project started and working with the town of Prescott Valley, and as well as Frank Marbury from the town of Chino Valley. I'd also like to thank some of the town staff. Neil Wadsworth is the utilities director, and he and his staff were very helpful in reviewing the general engineering standards. And Heather Reuter, the Public Works Director, and her staff, as well as Parker Murphy, our traffic engineer. They were all very helpful in getting us to where we are today. This is a project that's been ongoing and will continue to go. And what I have for you tonight is what I hope is the same presentation outline that was given to the City of Prescott Council Tuesday afternoon. So the first item is, what is the GES and the QCSD, which we call our Quad City Standard Details? The general engineering standards are simply the written standards that cover all aspects of the engineering that impact the town and impact our public infrastructure. The engineering standards provide design guidelines. Do I have? Okay. They provide design guidelines for both public and private development projects. The engineering standards include all elements of our engineering that impacts our public infrastructure. It can include grading, drainage, water supply, wastewater, transportation, and traffic, and survey, and every element that goes into what you see as you move about town. The town currently has a general engineering standard in its town code, and it's in Chapter 16. The purpose of the general engineering standard task that we're going through right now is to develop the general engineering standards. We're following the City of Prescott General Engineering Standard outline, and the purpose here is to improve consistency between the agencies and get one set of standards that can be used by all the agencies in the Quad City area. Now, the Quad City Standard Details, as you see on the lower part of the slide, the Quad City Standard Details is basically a graphical standard representation of elements that get constructed. It's basically a picture showing a contractor how to build. It might show some dimensions, some grades, some spaces, how things are to be built. That Quad City Standard Details, what we call our QCSD, currently contains 150 different details. So there's a lot of information in there that gets used by the local agencies and the contractors. The Quad City Standard Details do have an emphasis on the construction and how the information in the general engineering standards get applied in the field and on the ground, and they're used by the contractors. And we put a note in here in addition to Maricopa Association of Government standards and also other agency standards such as state and federal standards. So the next item here is benefits and history. Why go through this? What are the benefits to the community? And the first benefit basically is uniformity between designers, contractors, and projects that you'll see out on the ground. Again, the goal is to have consistency between projects within the town and also projects within the Quad Cities area. So if you're out driving around, moving around town in Prescott Valley, you'll see similar types of applications that you might see in Chino Valley or City of Prescott. Infrastructure longevity and fiscal responsibility and safety all kind of tie together with the quality of construction, which is a benefit from having standards that everybody is using. If all the contractors are using the same sets of standards, hopefully we're getting the same application and we get some consistency throughout that area. One of the benefits of having that consistency is our efficiency in maintenance, as the town would own and maintain its own infrastructure. Having that efficiency and maintenance where we can go out, hopefully, if we get quality construction, our maintenance operations become a little more efficient, less expensive. Our staff is out, working in traffic a lot less than they need to be, things like that. And that all plays into the town's strategic plan for a high-performing team. Once we improve our technical accuracy and we're out maintaining things less, and our staff is out exposed to traffic less, that improves our safety, which is another one of our strategic plan items. So it all fits in with what the town is trying to do moving forward. A little bit of the history. We have the Maricopa Association of Governments standards. That started in the mid-60s. Doing a little bit of research, I come from a state background, and I know the state had engineering standards starting as back as the 1930s. So having engineering standards is something that has been around as long as we've had public infrastructure almost. And so the next item here, what we have today is our current general engineering standards, kind of grew out of what was called the Yavapai Association of Governments, where the local agencies tried to get together and put together uniform standards. But it turned out that the county, Prescott Valley, the city of Prescott, all wanted to have different standards for different reasons. We're getting to a point now where we've grown to a point where it's just beneficial to everybody that we work together and get our standards all kind of in the same set of standards. What's currently for the Quad City standard details was first adopted in 2016, and we do have the Quad City standard details currently identified in the town code in chapter 16 as a reference, and having been developed in 2016, it's just time for an update. So our next item here is notable changes to the general engineering standard. So far, we've reviewed 3 different chapters in the general engineering standard. Again, we're following the current City of Prescott outline. Just because it's set up and it's formal, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can start working with something that's already in place. So we've looked at chapter 4 for the water, chapter 5 for wastewater, and chapter 6 for transportation and traffic. That chapter 6, which is the transportation and traffic, is currently in review. We're working with it as we speak. While we're reviewing it, we've already been able to put some of it into practice. So it's turning out to be a pretty good exercise for us even to date. We mentioned here the regional engineering standards and agency partnerships. We've already been able to, using this new general engineering standards outline, especially for the transportation elements, we've already been able to apply it to projects here for the town, and it's given us an opportunity to have interaction with the other agencies. I've been able to call the City of Prescott engineers and talk to them about how they're applying certain standards, the results they're getting, the kind of public feedback, and it's been able to help us apply some of the projects that we have going forward, even with our CIP projects that we're about to start this summer. So it's already showing some benefit. One of the items that you'll see noticeable, most noticeable probably in the changes to our standards, is the right-of-way requirements. Right now, the town has 4 typical roadway sections that are shown in the town's general plan. The new general engineering standard will have 7, and that gives us a little bit more flexibility with our typical sections that we can apply, especially toward our new construction projects. And in that, in those adjustments to the typical sections, we've been able to use that to establish proper right-of-way widths so that we can include certain elements like multimodal transportation opportunities so that we're not designing projects that kind of tie our hands from being able to expand when we need to. Now, on the Quad City standard details, there's a note here that shows in 2016, there were a number of Quad City standard details that were considered standard for all the agencies. That was about 61%. There were a number of standards that Prescott had their own, Prescott Valley had their own. This exercise that we've been going through, we tried to reduce that. We wanted to have less standards that a contractor or a designer had to decide, you know, which town he was in, which standard did he need to use. So we've been able to iron out some of those problems and some of those differences. And right now we're at about 79% or a much greater majority of the standards that can be used region-wide in any of the agencies. There are a number of standards that we did need to keep individual to the various agencies. Some of that's just to keep historical use and just the way that things have been built. We need to keep those standards or we'd be introducing tremendous cost and design to try to retrofit things into a new standard. So there are some cases where that's necessary. The update types to the Quad City standard details, some of them are just minor notes about how things need to be built, some dimensions, maybe what order, material changes as industry changes and certain safety features change, different materials are used, and that is all what we've incorporated into the Quad City standard details. We also do get information, we get recommendations from the various contractor councils and industry partners. YCCA and Sandy Griffiths has been very helpful. They've been a big part of helping us review these standard details and the applications and the communications with the contractors. They've been a great benefit to this project. So we do have one example that we want to show you here, and this is what is in the proposed update to the Quad City standard details, and this is a residential collector cross-section. Again, the new standard details will have some more opportunities for different types of cross-sections, some different dimensions. It'll give the town a little bit more flexibility in determining how to apply some of the standard sections. What you might see here in the lower part of the exhibit here is the current, what is the current version, and you see certain things like an offset from the edge of the road to a 4-foot sidewalk, where if you look up above, you'll see a 5-foot sidewalk. So there's certain elements that we've identified in the standards, whereas we're updating some of the needs and some of the practice, you'll see that in these standards. You'll see identification of width over on the right-hand side for a 10-foot public utility easement. There's certain elements that through practice, as all of our communities are growing, we're seeing greater need for elements, and we're getting that included in these standard details. And I will point out an additional benefit. What is not shown here is our arterial sections. I'll get to the end, and there's a link where you can go on and take a look at these standard details and some of the changes. We do have a couple of new arterial sections that do show multi-use paths and bike lanes, and there's, again, some options that allow us, these new standards will give us some flexibility and some options of different types of typical sections to use. So going on to the next steps here, the next steps for this project is a 60-day public comment period. The new general engineering standard and the new Quad City standard details are available for public review and comment on the City of Prescott's website. The link is shown here, and the town will be including that link in our information out to the public and give that public an opportunity to review and comment. There will be an open house scheduled Wednesday, April 23rd at 4:00 p.m. at the Adult Center on Rosser in Prescott. We'll get that information out to the public as well. The town will be attending that. We'll be part of that open house to be able to take questions and answer questions. Those links will be part of that. And going forward, as the town staff, our engineering staff, we're going to continue working with these general engineering standards. The town, as the city moves forward with adoption, they're a little bit better suited because their standards kind of fit their code the way it is now. in order for us to adopt their outline, especially with transportation and traffic, we need to go back through and kind of scrub our code updates. If you know, the council recently approved an update to chapter 13 in the code, and right now we're working on chapter 14, which is subdivisions. There are some engineering standards that are identified in that chapter 14. We also have engineering standards in our chapter 16. I'll be working on making sure that those languages don't contradict anything in this new engineering standard update. We'll make sure that as we put that in as a reference, that all that information is consistent and we can work out some of the inconsistencies that we might find. Any questions?
I first want to just say, Gwen, thank you for being a part of this and having your great team work with our great team. I think that's an awesome opportunity that we were able to get together, and that has never really been done before in the Tri-City area. So kudos to you guys over there, and kudos to you, John, and Ms. Reuter. Thank you very much for that. I think the key in what you talked about was uniformity, right? Just being consistent and expectations are set, and it gives a developer, a contractor, anybody just a clear set of plans on what is expected from them, no matter where they are.
Yes.
So that's huge. Council, any other comments for you, sir?
I totally agree with what the mayor just said, and I just want to commend all the people that are involved in this. I think it's a very good thing to have more cooperation and, with our adjoining communities. And I think it's a win-win for everybody to reduce complexity and reduce the redundant costs of trying to, meet all these standards. So thank you.
It's been quite a project. A room full of engineers and a box of bagels, and we can go all day.
Sounds exciting. Thank you, Mr. Latier. Moving on, item 10B, SS4A, Safety Action Plan Adoption. Welcome, sir. You may want to consider the handheld.
I'm going up here for a second. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. My name is Parker Murphy. I'm the traffic engineer for the town. We're going to give you an update this evening about our safety action plan. So a lot of this we've seen before, so we're just going to briefly give the project overview again, go through the safety action plan, the recommendations, the next steps in this process, and we'll open up for questions and open discussion. I'm going to invite Michael Grandy up here from Kimley Horn, who is our consultant on the project.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to come in and meet with you again to discuss the safety plan. So this project, as we mentioned back in November, last time we came and presented to you, is a tool for prioritizing safety improvements. This is not final design, ready to go. This is very preliminary, but gives the town an opportunity to understand where some of the issues are, what some of the concepts are that could be implemented, and then a general sense of cost for that, all with the goal of reducing and eliminating serious injury and fatal crashes. And the main steps of this plan was first to analyze the safety needs and identify high-risk locations and factors contributing to those crashes, which I'll mention. Most of those factors we identified were human behavior related, people disregarding traffic signals, stop signs, driving impaired, distracted, and aggressive driving were some of the main reasons for a lot of the crashes. Then we prioritize strategies that will address those identified needs. And we have set a near-term goal of a 20% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes on town roadways by 2030. And this is consistent with the statewide goal in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan that was recently approved, and with an eventual goal of eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes altogether on town roadways. This shows some of the general tasks and the schedule for this project. It's taken about a year. Did include several public outreach efforts, including a couple of community pop-up events, presentations to the council here, and then we had a safety summit with several stakeholders and council members. And we've been guided by a technical advisory committee made up of town staff plus other agencies in the area that have an interest in safety. This map here shows our recommended projects. There's 8 of them. And again, these are preliminary. They could be broken up and repackaged differently potentially in the future. This is just a way to organize them. And we'll go through each of the 8 here in a little more detail. But just wanted to generally kind of state that these improvements are intended to not necessarily prevent crashes from happening, but minimize the negative impacts when crashes happen, right? People are going to make mistakes. People are human, right? We can't stop that, but what we want to do is when someone does make a mistake driving, make it a minimal impact, maybe a fender bender or a side swipe or property damage only kind of crash rather than a fatality or a serious injury. We did rank these projects based off of safety effectiveness that's anticipated and recognizing the crash history here. So they are ranked 1 to 8. We do have a preliminary cost estimate here. Again, this is very preliminary, and additional more detailed costs would be developed as these projects move forward into design. This at least helps from a budgeting standpoint and also potentially going after grants to help fund some of these. So the first project is Robert Lane Road reconfiguration from State Route 69 to Tranquil Boulevard. This is currently a road with 2 lanes each direction, but it does not have a left turn lane. So people have to stop in the through lane to turn left if there's opposing traffic coming the other direction. And we're proposing to reconfigure that right-of-way that's already there to 1 lane each direction with a continuous 2-way left turn lane, and then a wide shared use path on one side, and then a more standard sidewalk on the other side with a planter strip or parkway in between those. This will improve pedestrian and bicyclist safety as well as driver safety. We are proposing 6 roundabouts at the intersections you can see listed here, and it has a planning level cost of approximately $19 million. And if these improvements are implemented, we're anticipating a 63% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes. Second project is on Glassford Hill Road between Center Court and Granville Parkway or Tuscany Way. And this one focuses primarily on positively offset left turn lanes. And what that means is when you have opposing left turn lanes, so you're going north and someone else is going left and wanting to turn left, sometimes it can be hard to see around the car in the opposing lane. So by shifting the left turn lanes over a little bit, it can make it easier to see around that opposing left turning vehicle. And you can do that with narrowing the median, and we're striping on the road to kind of help guide drivers to not block each other's vision. There's one stretch of Glassford Hill Road that does not have sidewalk currently, or that won't have it with the upcoming widening project, and that's between Veterans Way and Main Street or Panther Path. So we are proposing also to make that connection to provide continuous facilities for pedestrians. This project we're anticipating is $3.8 million with a 36% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes if implemented. Third is another project on Robert Road. This is the little further north from the first one we talked about, but reconfiguring that. Right now it's 1 lane each direction with no sidewalks, and instead going to 1 lane each direction with a continuous left turn lane, so it would match with the section that we talked about on Project 1, with the shared use path on one side and a sidewalk on the other side. It does include a couple of roundabouts, Long Mesa and Roundup. And we're anticipating 26% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes. Number 4 is Lakeshore Drive. We're proposing sidewalk be placed on the south side. There's already curb there, but there's not any sidewalk there. So it's kind of a gap in the pedestrian facility network. We're also proposing a traffic signal at Lakeshore and Lake Valley Road, if warranted, along with a couple roundabouts at the 2 Skoog intersections, so very close to where we are today. This would cost $6.6 million with a 46% anticipated reduction in fatal and serious injuries. 5th is on Ranger and Navajo, 3 roundabouts. And then at the Navajo Lakeshore Drive, which is one of those 3 locations, also looking at adding some crosswalk flashing beacons on both the north and the east legs where the trail crosses the road. This would be $4.8 million with the 82% anticipated fatal and serious injury crash reduction. Number 6 is Lake Valley Road between State Route 69 and Lakeshore Drive. And similar to the Glassford Hill Road project, we're proposing a couple of locations to make the left turn lanes more positively offset, and also add left turn signal phasing at Pav Way. By phasing, we mean adding the left turn arrow. And then also sidewalk, curb, and gutter on the east side of Lake Valley Road, and this would cost $1.7 million, we're estimating, and have a 36% reduction in fatal and serious injury. Number 7, we're proposing a median at Windsong and Pav Way. So this is very close to State Route 69, where there's 2 intersections very close together, and a lot of times there's traffic blocking the intersection there. So improve safety. Also adding sidewalk, curb, and gutter on the west side of Windsong between the landings and Lakeshore, and then positively offsetting the left turn lanes at Windsong and Lakeshore, and then 2 roundabouts. The estimated cost for this of $4 million and a 36% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes. And last but definitely not least, some access management and expanded connectivity, kind of related to what we just talked about on the prior one at 69 and 89A. So at Navajo, Prescott East Highway, and Viewpoint Drive, as you approach the state highways of 69 and 89A, again, there's intersections very close, or driveways very close to the main intersections with the state highway, and trying to provide better access control and management there, so it's easier for people to know where their drivers are going to be turning. So that's part of the project, and then along with that, adding some roundabouts just a little bit kind of interior to the town from that. So for people who before were turning left, but with the median would be restricted, then they can turn right and make a U-turn at those roundabouts. Also proposing a shared use path on the west side of Viewpoint Drive. This was identified by many people in the public as a gap in the trail network that people would like to see filled in. So we included that. And while there were no documented serious injuries or fatal crashes during our analysis period, we do want to note, soon after, like while we were working on the study, we know there was a fatal bicyclist involved crash in the very section of Viewpoint where we're proposing to put this shared use path, just highlighting the need for that improvement. So those are kind of the 8 major projects that we're recommending. Then there's some kind of minor lower cost things that we think could also be implemented at 2nd Street and 5th Street, providing an all-way stop. Right now, it's only a 2-way stop. And then Lakeshore Drive and Lake Valley Road, which earlier we had said, recommended that have a traffic signal, but recognize it may take a little while to get that in place. And in the interim, we recommend an all-way stop at that intersection. Then at Valley View Drive and Frontage Road, right now it's a four-legged intersection, and three of the four legs have a stop sign, which is kind of unconventional. So there's been some driver confusion about, who has to stop and who doesn't. And by going to a two-way stop, that's a more conventional configuration people are used to. So we're recommending that. And then also just at several of the intersections, we noticed there's vegetation, signage, and things on some of the corners that blocks visibility. So just looking around, periodically and seeing if anything needs to be cleaned up there to help promote safety. And then also looking at traffic signal timing periodically, reviewing and refining that as needed. We do have a few policy recommendations as well. One is some travel lane width flexibility. I know John Latier talked about having the standards, and we're in favor of that as well, having standards, consistency, but sometimes occasions do arise where you need to retrofit something and you need some flexibility on how you work things in that you want there. And so we do promote some flexibility in those kind of retrofit situations. The positively offset left turn lane concept we talked about, proposing that be put into the town's standard details so that in the future you don't have to go back and rebuild that at other locations that are built. On-street parking restrictions, just cleaning up some of the town code. It's a little confusing sometimes of where you're allowed to or not park on the street. Having some more consistent bicycle lane identification and regulation in the standards. And then improving visibility along some of the roadway segments, especially at crossings, such as at trail crossings, having lights at night and things. And then there's several other updates that are in the document you're welcome to look at. We did, as I mentioned, go to the public several times to get their input. The draft plan that we had, we sent out a survey and got over 1,600 comments, which was fantastic. That's a high response rate. And we just had the 8 projects that you saw before. They were numbered slightly differently at that time. So if you're looking at that, they're not in the exact same order. But those same 8 projects, and we just asked people which one do you want to see implemented the most, and do you have any concerns about it? People were generally supportive of the proposed sidewalks, the shared use paths, and the raised medians that were proposed, as well as the offset left turn lanes, although there were a few people that weren't sure exactly what that was. The highest ranked project was the one on Glassford Hill Road that has those positively offset left turn lanes and the sidewalk. But I did want to note there were several comments, some very passionate comments of people opposed to roundabouts, and that's understandable. They're kind of a newer thing and may not be super comfortable and convenient for people to drive all the time. But I think it highlights the need for some education on the benefits of roundabouts based off of some of the comments that we got. It's very well documented, the safety improvement, safety benefits of roundabouts compared to stop signs, reduced by 82% fatal and serious injury crashes. And for traffic signals, 78% reduction by going to a roundabout. Roundabouts also improve health by moderating speeds, which makes it more likely that people will feel comfortable walking and biking in the area and crossing. Roundabouts are generally more efficient than stop signs and signals, unless you get to a super high volume. But most of the locations in Prescott Valley, we don't anticipate that being an issue. And then they also reduce vehicle emissions and conserve fuel and energy. I'm showing a picture here of a couple of the roundabouts in the Jasper subdivision. These are kind of what we're envisioning for where we're recommending roundabouts. So these would not be like the ones on Prescott East Highway that are much smaller and don't have curbs that kind of force people to slow down. And they're not like the Chino Valley ones that are more oval shaped and you can take at a higher speed. So these are more kind of neighborhood friendly type facilities that still allow for good efficient flow of roundabout, of traffic around the roundabout. So where do we go from here? Well, tonight, there's an action to officially adopt the safety action plan through a resolution. And that resolution talks about the safety action plan goals and the recommendations, and commits the town to promoting safety, that's a priority for the town. One of the things we're also looking at doing is helping the town prepare what's called SS4A, that's Safe Streets and Roads for All. It's a federal safety program. They have safety implementation grants that you can apply for. And typically, it's around March when that comes out each year. With some of the things going on at the federal level right now, that there could be some delay in the timing of that, but we're anticipating that still to come out some point this year. It is a competitive national process, and you have to have an adopted safety action plan to apply for that. So this will, by adopting that plan tonight, will make the town eligible for that. Last year, the average size of an awarded grant was $11.5 million. So that's kind of right in that ballpark of where a lot of these costs were for the 8 projects that we came up with. And 95% of those grants were awarded to projects that would provide significant pedestrian and bicyclist safety benefits. So not very many that were only, motor vehicle helping them with safety, but pedestrian and bicyclists plus motor vehicles and transit and other things. That program does have a 20% local match, so the town would need to provide 20% for any amount that they're looking to get through that grant. And we would work with town staff to figure out, once we see the requirements of the grant application request, to see which projects make the most sense to try to go after, which we think might be most advantageous. And then we also will, in a year, do an evaluation of progress on the safety action plan. And we recognize the 8 projects probably won't be built in a year, but are they in the CIP, or are the policies, or some of those starting to be implemented? How's the kind of culture about safety in the town? Those kinds of things we can start to evaluate and see if we're starting to move the needle and hopefully improve safety. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Sir, I just want to say, first off, great job.
Thank
You put a lot of work into this. I know the community meetings had a lot of good information coming your way, so that was great. I also want to emphasize that these are recommendations that you put together in order for us to apply for those federal grants, because without your report, we wouldn't be eligible. Is that correct?
For the SS4A program, that's correct, yes.
And I'd also like to point out that your low-cost recommendations, I think, would be an incredible impact for our community. So I think staff should definitely be reviewing options to try to move forward on at least the low end or the low costs. As I believe Mr. Woods, you commented in reference Long Mesa and Robert Road. I couldn't agree with him anymore. That if anyone had ever traveled that road when it was just a stop sign on Long Mesa, you recognize like getting onto Robert Road was a huge challenge, especially on a Sunday morning after eating at Back Burner. So now we have a 4-way stop there, and it flows very, very smooth. And I see some heads nodding out there. And that would just be a perfect example of how stop signs are improving the roads, as opposed to spending millions of dollars on a roundabout that may or may not be necessary at the time. So again, sir, thank you very much for your report. Council? Yes, sir.
I agree with the mayor again on this. I think everyone agrees that we want more safety on our roads. It's just how we do it that's open to question. And it's important to understand, for the public to understand, that we're not locking anything, but we have to have a plan in place in order to get grants. And so without the safety plan, we can't go after grants and try to improve infrastructure. And one of my goals as a council member is to improve our infrastructure locally here. I think most of us agree we need that. So we're going to continue to listen to input of the town people as far as what they want. There's a lot of I think there's some pushback I've heard mainly on the question of roundabouts. But understand that if we vote for this, it doesn't lock in all these things. We're still going to be listening and we really care what you have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add something to it. Apart from grants, I'll give a couple examples. So we're always looking for grant dollars to be able to apply to some of our infrastructure projects. But there have been times where the state legislature has money to appropriate out to communities, and they will broadly ask who has a project ready to go, who's done the analysis and the studies. Glassford Hill Road that we just got funded, we had already had a lot of the planning done on that. We were able to report that back to the state, and that was funded by the state. So this plan also allows us to prepare for those, different opportunities where the state or some other entity may have additional transportation funding, and we're able to get right into the mix because we've already done some of the legwork on particular projects.
Councilman Williams.
I read your $591,000 contract and the resulting report. I was at the Safety Summit, and at times I felt I was the lone voice for Bicycle Path. In fact, I'm featured in 4 photos in your report, 4 times. Most photographed person in your report. I'll get back to bike paths in a minute, but there was a photo that caught my eye, other than my own, of a man in a red shirt holding up a sign at one of your booths or pop-up tents that said, "Win a car here." Did you give away a car as an inducement for people to answer your survey?
We gave away lots of cars about this size, little Matchbox cars to kids. Yep.
Okay. Well, I agree with your point on people objecting to roundabouts, but there is scant recommendation in the report for bicycle facilities, whatever that is. In fact, there were hundreds of words, if you do a word count, spent on all of the negatives that our town folks believe in related to roundabouts. And I'm surprised you cut and pasted all those, because there's dozens of them using the F word in your report, fully spelled out, as a way to describe roundabouts. But we're going to propose 6 roundabouts to the tune of $9 million on Viewpoint Drive. Moving on, because I'm trying to link the logic or lack of logic here. We have had 3 bike fatalities on Viewpoint Drive in 3 years. 2 young people, 1 adult, 1 DUI related, all on Viewpoint. Now, I guess we can wait on grant money. We can wait on capital improvement money. And we can hear the old excuse, we can't do anything because the state owns part of Viewpoint Drive. But these sound like pretty lame excuses for not going out there and telling the state something like this. Maybe your team or our representative here from town who spoke earlier could say just flat out to the state, we will pay for all necessary costs of striping and new bike paths. Just get out of our way and let us do it. Because if we're losing 1 person a year on Viewpoint Drive, how much longer are we going to wait? I have more, but jump in and answer anytime. I also noticed in the contract that an official of the town has to commit to a goal of 0 roadway fatalities and injuries. Which town official has committed to a goal of 0 roadway fatalities and injuries?
I believe I have. I believe the rest of this council has.
In writing?
Well, it's in the resolution. Remember, there's a near-term and a long-term goal. The near-term is a 20% reduction. The long-term goal is eventual elimination of all fatal and serious crashes.
I think everyone in this room could probably agree that if we never have another fatality or another serious injury, it would be amazing. And that should be 100% our goal.
Didn't answer my question, but I'll ask another one. what were the underserved populations that you identified in the report? What is an underserved population?
Underserved refers to several, there's a few different parameters for it, but generally what the federal government considers disadvantaged. That includes things like low income, disabilities, minority populations. But we also looked at what the town kind of considers disadvantaged in terms of where they look to put some of their community development block grant program, and also made sure we were aware of those parts of town. And then in looking at the analysis, we wanted to do a few things. One, make sure they weren't being, or that if those disadvantaged populations are overrepresented in the crashes, that we're addressing that we're coming up with solutions that will address those crashes. But then on the improvement side, doing improvements, we want to make sure we're not disproportionately impacting disadvantaged communities by like taking their properties and things more than is happening in the rest of town. So it's a check just to make sure that everyone has a voice and is heard. And from an outreach standpoint, we also went to great lengths to try to reach some of those disadvantaged populations because they generally do not engage as much in kind of the standard public involvement. So we went to some of the places where we anticipated we would see some of those people. We had documents in different language translation options that people could use, other things like that to try to make sure we're giving everyone the chance to participate.
Well, when we lost 14-year-old Gabriel Grande on that stretch of road on Viewpoint Drive, and he has a wonderful memorial out there right now, beautiful memorial. The parents were featured in an investigative report on ABC 15 News Phoenix, and they were nearly crying throughout the whole piece. And that's in the largest television market in the state. Why am I looking at an appendix that earmarks millions of dollars on everything except a bike lane on Viewpoint Drive?
Viewpoint Drive, we do have a shared use path that's on there, and it's actually in that same section for the crash that you're referencing, that if that had been in place, that crash likely would not have happened.
Are there funds earmarked for bike paths in this report?
By bike path, if you mean like a multi-use or shared use path?
Regular
Yes.
old bike path. Where is it in the appendix, and how many dollars are earmarked?
Well, that project I mentioned, the one on that includes the shared use path on Viewpoint, I believe it's about like 6 or 7 million out of that 11 million would go towards bike paths. There's also sidewalks in several of the other projects that can be used as bike facilities.
Is that 6 million dependent on acquisition of grant money or capital improvement funds?
Our study did not look at where commit any funding source. We just are identifying the need, and then it's up to the town to identify what's the best way to fund that. But we have provided some ideas of potential resources.
Mr. Mayor, that'll be a part of the capital improvement process that council will be going through to determine where you're going to allocate money for some of these projects. And Councilmember Williams, you did have a question. I've provided to you on we do own the right of way through that on Viewpoint Road through the state land section. So there's no land that we have to acquire for the bike lane.
When will we be discussing the acquisition of that money? It's not going to be until April or May before we even get into discussions on CIP, right? Because that's when we're going to begin budget talks?
Yes,
Sure,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Go ahead,
yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah, it'll be part of the budget process, so in May.
Councilwoman.
Just wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you educated us on, because I know one of the questions that I've been presented with by a lot of the public is why is the speed limit so low through the middle of town on Glassford Hill? And I asked you that, and the answer was pretty surprising, and it's about the impact of a car versus a pedestrian on the rate of survival when being hit by a vehicle. And so I really appreciate the way that you approached everything and have said that. And another one of the concerns was the change on Robert Road, because somebody had mentioned that, well, if we don't like it, we can change it back. And I asked you on that, and your reply was that in all the years you've been doing this, in other towns where you have applied the same principle and created the roadway the way that we are going to be coming forward with this, that no one has ever asked to have it changed back. So I just wanted to say thank you for that too, so that it is money well spent. It's not going to be wasted the way some people's way of thinking is, well, if we don't like it, we could change it back. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Councilwoman.
I too wanted to thank you, and I appreciate all of your efforts and your education, helping to educate us about roundabouts and safety. I know I've talked to so many in the community that want safe pedestrian bicycle transportation, and this report also gives some simple ideas on how to make our roads safer, like the offsetting, or a stop sign here or there. So I just thank you. This is much needed.
Thank you.
Again, sir, thank you very much. Council, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign resolution number 2025-2408, adopting the town safety action plan as presented.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Councilmember Williams, thank you. That passes, Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, item 10C, FDP 24-012, Dealers Network. Mr. Norlock, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. This is a final development plan for Dealers Network at 720 North Village Way. The site is, the project was originally submitted in February of 2024 and recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission on May 13th of 2024. Since then, the site plan has not changed. The site is approximately 1.13 acres, and it is located just west of the villages at Lynx Creek and Quailwood Golf Course. The proposal is for a modular home sales office that is just over 1,000 square feet with models on site. The site will have room for up to 7 models to be placed for potential buyers to view. The models will maintain a minimum of 10 feet between them as required by CAFMA. There will be a 10-foot landscape buffer as required on Village Way and Village Creek Boulevard, and all plants will be drought tolerant and on the Prescott AMA list. Staff recommends approval of the FDP, and I'm here for any questions. I believe the applicant is as well.
Council, have you any questions for Mr. Norlock on this? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor sign resolution number 2025-2406, adopting FDP 24-012, Dealers Network by electronic vote.
Have a second? We have a second. Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, item 10D, GPA 24-003, 4600 North Wagon Way. This is a public hearing. Welcome, sir. And I am opening the public hearing now.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. This is a general plan amendment and zone map change for 4600 North Wagon Way. As they go hand in hand, I'll just do the presentation together.
Sounds good, sir.
The proposal for the general plan amendment and the zone map change is to allow for a duplex. The map here that you're seeing, the inner dark blue circle is a 300-foot radius that would have been notified by the town for the general plan amendment and the zone map change. And the outer lighter blue is a 1,000-foot buffer that was notified by the applicant for the neighborhood meeting. Currently, the general plan designation is low density. In order to be rezoned to residential services to allow for duplex, a designation of community commercial is required. In June 2005, Town Council approved the Robert Road, Luce Drive, Spouse Drive area specific reinvestment plan. This property was included in that plan for the town to coordinate with street front property owners to develop plans to infill underutilized properties and rezone these to accommodate the new proposed uses. The parcel is located just east of Robert Road and on the north side of Spouse. The current zoning to the west and across the street on the south, some are RS that are being used for duplexes currently. As you can see from this photo of the area along Spouse, for a lack of a better term, it's sort of a hodgepodge zoning area. The applicant is looking to rezone to RS to be in alignment with the west neighbors on Spouse, who also have a duplex built there. This is a conceptual site plan showing the duplex. The drive will come off Wagon Way per the traffic engineer, and the driveway will be shifted north along Wagon Way at the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And this is a conceptual elevation provided by the applicant. The duplex will be one story and is a model that has been built many times around the town. Staff recommends approval of both the general plan amendment and the zone map change. And I'll take any further questions.
I don't have any questions, sir. I just have a comment in regards to, if anyone's familiar with Spouse Drive and you start at Glassford Hill and you go from Spouse all the way through Unit 19 across Robert Road, every single residential street has a duplex on the corner. So this is very consistent with Unit 19, but you are correct. At some point, it did turn into a little bit of a hodgepodge. The town back in the day tried to clean it up a little bit, and this is just an opportunity to get it a little bit more conformed. So I don't have any questions. Council, any questions for Mr. Norlock? And this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone out there that wishes to speak on this item, you are welcome to come. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Williams, go ahead.
I have a question, but we're going to move into 10E next, right?
We will be voting on just this portion, and then we will go to a separate vote. But if you'd like to ask a question now, I believe you covered 10E in his.
Sure, it's a quick one. When we rezoned from, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, from low-density residential to community commercial, kind of allowed this to happen. What kind of buildings or businesses can be constructed in a community commercial designation?
It's more of your like mom and pop shops. It's a very low usage of commercial if you actually look in the code. It allows just a handful of things. So if you look around town, a lot of those are not being used as the commercial. A lot of those rezone to the residential and services for multifamily, and that's what we see around town a lot of the times.
So you could have a store in the same area?
But potentially a very small store.
And how much more acreage around that 4,600 Wagon Way area is available for this kind of work or creation or development?
As far as vacant land, I would have to look into it, and I can get that to you. Staff can look at.
I believe it's 0. I believe there's a duplex to the west.
Yeah, there's a. If you see those straight to the west of all those, the purple on the north side of Spouse, those are all built out.
Yes.
And then a majority of the other RS is already built out, and the majority of the vacant land there is the C1 on the south side of Spouse.
Thank you.
Councilwoman.
And I believe, if I remember the packet, this has to be built according to Exhibit A, which has the drawings and everything. So if it were to change, it would have to come before council again.
That's correct.
Okay.
And also to add on to that, it would be within 5 years. They need to develop it.
That is a condition, yes, in the packet.
All right. That being said, no further questions. I'll entertain a motion for 10C.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign.
I'm sorry, 10D. I apologize, sir.
Send 10D. Sorry. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign resolution number 2025-2407, approving and adopting the general plan amendment 24-003 for 4600 North Wagon Way.
I'll second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. And I know, sir, you covered this, but 10E is technically a public hearing as well, so I will open it up to a public hearing at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak about 10E at this moment? Being none, I will close the public hearing. Council, if we have no other additional questions for Mr. Norlock, I'll entertain another motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 2025-950, approving zoning map change 24-004 for 4600 Wagon Way by title on only 2 separate occasions and place on final passage.
I second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor. Ordinance number 2025-950, an ordinance of the mayor and common council of the town of Prescott Valley, a municipal corporation of Arizona, amending the town zoning map CMC 24-4 by changing the zoning classification of the property at 4600 North Wagon Way, APN 103-28-479 from R1L10 Residential Single Family Limited zoning to RS4 Residential and Services zoning, and providing that this ordinance shall be effective 30 days after its passage and approval according to law. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, item 10F, effluent credits for landscape plan, Jasper Parkway. Ms. Lund, welcome.
Thank you, Council. Sorry, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Get a little clump there. Just this particular point of discussion is to approve an irrigation alternative use for some effluent by Jasper Eco Development. It will be for plantings along Jasper Parkway. This is in conforming with their actual development agreement and is outlined in their landscape drawings. And this was initially a filing that went to ADWR as part of Phase 3's cause, and was stripped from that because of ADWR. It's not actually a part of Phase 3. So this is a slightly separate deal, but it is going to be to satisfy. It will satisfy our requirements for using effluent water for such purpose. And just to dispel discussions from earlier, this will not be, wells will not be required as part of this. So I don't know if you had any further comments on that particular point, Ivan?
Mr. Mayor and Council, yes. This is one of the first times we've ever been able to get effluent credits applied to something that wasn't a CAWS, a Certificate of Assured Water Supply. We would have had to have put water on these plantings anyway. And the developer went out and bought effluent credits, and now they're offering to apply those credits towards the water that the town would have applied to those plantings anyway. And so this is really a unique opportunity. We're grateful to have this chance. And one of the things that, in fact, the developer reminded us of, the language that was mentioned was because it was a draft that was attached to the resolution. The actual document that was signed, we had negotiated back and forth, and they actually removed that language. Not because we won't have wells, they just wanted it clear that we aren't going to build any new wells to do this. We're going to use the current wells that we have today.
Yes, as a part of this particular 8.5 acre feet. So that concludes what I have. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to
Questions
answer
for
those.
Ms. Lund? Councilman?
So I believe these are drought tolerant plants, right?
They would be consistent with whatever was in the drought tolerant list of that particular time of that particular development agreement. So it's not conforming necessarily with what we have on what we recommend now with the PRAMA fifth management plan. But the last time I looked, which was admittedly a couple of years ago, the lists were very, very comparable.
It seems like it's a lot of water. And with drought tolerant plants, a lot of times you can get them started, get them rooted, and then cut back on the watering. Is there any plan afoot or anything about that?
I'm not aware of any special plans on that, but these plants should be drought tolerant. This is, I mean, the use of drought tolerant plants is not something that's new. So this would have been outlined in their development agreement when Jasper was up for debate.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if I could remind us again, this is something that is similar to a certificate of assured water supply. So we use a calculator that we get from the Department of Water Resources. They tell us they tell a developer the number of credits they have to buy in order to get a CAWS. That same calculator was used to decide how many credits they had to buy and then pledge to the town for the purpose of this water being applied. So that's really kind of a math calculation. It's kind of a, I don't know, how do I describe that?
It's in a spreadsheet. It's all figured in a spreadsheet that ADWR has developed.
And so it's not that we're actually going to put that many acre feet on those plants. We're going to put the same amount of water that we put on plants in most medians. Okay?
And remember, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, but we had to use a calculation, and so we used DWR's calculation, and the developer then had to go buy that number of credits, which, by the way, they will pay for, and be passing that money on to the town.
Councilman Williams?
But we're using effluent. We're not using drinking water.
No, this is drinking water that would be purposed for this. This is effluent credits.
Well, I guess I'm confused then because we're talking in the proposal about effluent credits.
They're effluent credits. So they would be buying water from WAM, WPI, to actually apply to those plantings over the course of time that they're going to be.
Right. And if I could
watered.
just remind us about the effluent credits, the effluent is recharged into the ground, and the Department of Water Resources then gives us credits for what is recharged in the ground. Then the developer is able to pull regular water out of another well and actually use that water for all the different purposes that we use water for, drinking, et cetera. And that would include then providing water for these plants.
So they're essentially using, they're using effluent credits for beautification along that corridor.
Okay, but we're still talking about a lot of water, as my colleague mentioned, and as 3 people brought up a call to the public. How many trees and shrubs? I looked at the plans, and I think I'm looking from the 30,000-foot level down onto a whole bunch of little circles. Is that the indicators of plants and shrubs, the little
Yes.
circles?
Yes.
How many trees and shrubs can you fit into a 6.8 acre project zone?
I do not know. I am a geologist.
Can I answer the question?
No one from the developer is here this evening.
Can you get back to me later?
I
through
certainly
Mr.
can.
Okay, so our astute residents were pretty darn close on their numbers. 8.56 acre feet of water is in the project description to be used per year. So an acre foot is 326,000 gallons. Multiply that times the 8.5, and we're right at that rounded off number that one of the gentlemen said, 2.8 million gallons a year. So help me understand where the project zone is. If I start walking north from Culver's, how far do I walk till I'm out of the project area?
The project area that would contain the plantings is actually behind Granville, to my knowledge, to the west of Granville.
And actually, Mr. Williams, you would go 1.2 miles from Culver's north before you hit the beginning of the project.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's not starting at 69.
But give me an idea on how long the project area is.
That I'm not aware of. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Well, I see a sketch, but it's a little confusing because it looks like Copper Hill Road is one of the boundary lines. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong.
Would I be wrong to think that it's about a quarter mile?
That would sounds about right.
About a quarter mile.
Okay, so we're in an arid climate. We're probably in a drought. The town has no idea how much water it has. But we're going to put 2.8 million gallons of water in a little quarter-mile section just to make the median and the sidelines look good with plants? That doesn't make sense, does it?
It was a part of their original development agreement and their plans for that agreement.
I can't support it.
Council, any other questions or comments? And just one more, and Mr. Legler, I believe you can address this. Is a development agreement approved 2017 when Jasper originally
Yes.
came before
Yes.
council?
Mhm.
So it's a binding contract?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, another thing to think about this is our town code requires people to put in landscaping with their projects. So whether it's a commercial project or a residential project, our town code requires certain number of trees or shrubbery for beautification and landscaping purposes. If without this arrangement, the developer could just install a water meter and it would just be our regular water resource that's being used to water this like it is in other medians. What's great about this is the developer is actually paying the town for this water resource. The citizens aren't having to pay for this water resource. The developer is having to pay for this. So that's what makes this a very unique thing. And is a positive thing. It's actually requiring a developer to have to invest money to buy water resources for these types of things. Because even without this deal, there would still have to be plants planted just like there is in Granville and all of the other master subdivisions in the community. So another way to kind of look at it.
Thank you, sir.
This would have been part of a normal phasing.
Sure.
And was, I believe, a part of the original phase one, but was peeled away because of the orders in which the parkway was going to be put into place.
Councilman Freund.
Just one more question. I assume that it's just not practical to pipe treated effluent water over to there because of the distance?
Yeah, it's quite some distance from the closest effluent pipe.
So it's not really not practical.
It isn't.
Thank you. Ma'am, can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign resolution number 2025-2410, approving the alternative use of the landscape plan for Jasper Parkway extension to which effluent credits will be applied.
I'll
Have a
second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Mr. Mayor, that passes 5-1.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, renaming of North Stone Ridge Drive to Jasper Parkway, saving the best for last. Mr. Barton, welcome.
Excited with that. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, excited to be here. Stone Ridge Drive, there's a section just above State Route 69 from just north of State Route 69 to Copper Hill Drive. That section, the town is proposing to rename to Jasper Parkway, and that's in consideration with the opening of Jasper Parkway. That is highlighted in the red there, that section. And then after the renaming, it would just be Jasper Parkway north of State Route 69. And the purpose of that is really to have consistency in the naming convention for the street. Also, it helps first responders to respond with less confusion, and it provides citizens with wayfinding. So it's easier for residents to find their way around town. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, sir. At first, though, this is a public hearing. I will open it up. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak about this item? Really looks like it affects one business at this point.
Yes.
I will close the public hearing, seeing none. And I agree 100% with you. Just the fact that individuals driving around would want to see Jasper Parkway heading towards Jasper and Stone Ridge Drive heading towards Stone Ridge. Makes it very, very clear. Council, we have any questions for Mr. Barton? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign resolution number 2025-2409, approving and adopting a street name change for the North Stone Ridge Drive to be Jasper Parkway by electronic vote.
I second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, we are at the end of the agenda and about to adjourn. Is there anything else you wish to add or comment on at this time? Seeing none. Folks, thanks for sticking around. Have a great night. Drive safe.
Mr. Ma- there is construction out, so just be careful as you're leaving. We're trying to wrap up the first floor construction, so just be careful.